Hell or High Water is a Western heist movie directed by David Mackenzie, starring Jeff Bridges, Chris Pine, and Ben Foster. Now, this movie's been out for a little over a month now, and I finally got around to seeing it this weekend. And the sole reason it took me that long to see it is simply because there wasn't a whole lot of talk going around with this movie. But along the way, I saw that this movie was getting extremely good reviews, including from the people that I follow on YouTube. So with that, I figured I should finally check this movie out. Now let me tell you what I thought about it. So the movie essentially revolves around Chris Pine and Ben Foster. They are brothers and they rob banks together. However, what I loved about the beginning of this movie is it shows just how smart these guys are as bank robbers. We see them rob two small banks in the early morning, but what I love seeing is how demanding they are when they are robbing these banks. You know, they show up in ski masks and latex gloves so they can't leave any traces of themselves. And when they do rob these banks, they demand from the clerks that they are only given loose money and never ever $100 bills. Because they know that if they demand $100 bills, or if they're given money that's in kind of, you know, those folded bands, then those can be tracked by the police. And even more so of this, after each robbery that they commit, they immediately go out to this abandoned construction yard and they bury any car that they had with them so the car can't be tracked either. But above all that, I love seeing the motive between these two brothers to why they are doing this. We learn that their mother has recently passed away, which has left their ranch in massive debt, and if they don't pay off this debt, it is going to go into foreclosure. Chris Pine especially wants to save this ranch because it's recently been discovered that oil exists in this ranch, and as a result, he wants to give the rights to this ranch to his sons, so essentially, they never have to worry about money ever again. It was a very interesting take in seeing that these brothers aren't out this for selfish desires. They want to do this so their family can have a better life. It was not at all what I was expecting, and the movie already had me hooked. But obviously, you can't just rob a bank and get away with it. No, these two know that someone is gonna come after them for it. And that someone, or someones I should say in this case, are Jeff Bridges and his partner. And now we all know Jeff Bridges is one of the best actors in the business, and he continues to show that in this movie. He's this old Texas Ranger that's really smart, knows what to do and how to solve this case, and he delivers some great dialogue. Although I will say it was kind of hard to understand him sometimes. Because, you know, Jeff Bridges is in a Western movie, and Jeff Bridges, when he's in a Western movie, he talks a little bit like this. And he'll talk like this throughout the most of the movie, so it's hard to understand what the hell he's even saying. So now I'm gonna get back to Chris Pine and Ben Foster because I really want to touch on the chemistry these two had in this movie. These guys just played off one another so well, you could easily buy into the fact that they were brothers. But one of the things that I also love about the two of them is that they are very different people. On one side, you have Chris Pine, who's a divorced father. He's doing these bank robbings so he can give his two sons the life that they deserve. And then on the other side, you have Ben Foster, who's a little bit of a wild card here. Simply because he's a guy who has spent time in prison, he's done his fair share of criminal acts, and above all, he loves the thrill of crime. Which certainly frustrates Chris Pine because you can see that Ben Foster's really wild and reckless nature has led to some really close calls in some of these bank robberies. One moment in particular in this movie when Chris Pine and Ben Foster just finished having lunch at this diner, and Ben Foster just decided to single-handedly go to the bank across the street, rob that all by himself, and then the two had to get the hell out of there because they almost got caught from that. I just love that this movie is showing that although these two irritate each other like brothers would, they still have each other's backs like brothers should. This is one scene I loved in particular. They pulled up to get gas. Chris Pine goes inside to pay for it. So Ben Foster's just chilling in the car, and then out of nowhere, these two guys pull up next to him in this much nicer car. The driver doesn't like how Ben Foster is looking at him, so he just pulls out a gun. He's ready to shoot Ben Foster because everyone in Texas has a gun. Wait, is that racist? However, before this guy can shoot Ben Foster, Chris Pine comes out of the gas station and he just fucks this guy up. Because you know that these two are thinking, we just robbed a couple of banks. A punk ass with a gun isn't gonna scare us. And then throughout, I would say, the second third of this movie, we see more of Ben Foster and Chris Pine, you know, planning on these other bank robberies so they can make the payment for the ranch at this specific date. While Jeff Bridges and his partner are continuing to try to track these two down and bring them in. I will say, here's where the movie did slow down a little bit, but not as badly as I would dock other movies that would. Simply because it's in this second third of this movie that this movie is really really relying on its great dialogue. How Ben Foster and Chris Pine interact with each other, how Jeff Bridges and his partner interact with each other. Because the dialogue between these two pairs, it's just so real. Simply because it's dialogue that touches upon what guys do when they hang out with each other. And that's simply it's two guys that are really close with one another, they shit on each other. You know, Ben Foster and Chris Pine, they're fucking with each other because they're brothers, and then you have Jeff Bridges and his partner, they're shit talking each other because they're friends, and that's what friends do. I really love this dialogue in the sort of it's funny because it's true sense, because when I hang out with my guy friends, this is what we do. We shit on each other all the time, and it's hilarious for us all. It may have slowed the movie down a little bit, but the movie captured on that sense of reality so well, and I gotta give it props for that. Now it's around the final third of this movie. We see at this point that Jeff Bridges has finally figured out that the brothers are targeting a specific chain of banks, so now they know where to finally track them down. So now Ben Foster and Chris Pine, they arrive at the final bank of their heist. The only problem is this one is full of people. The brothers make their robbery, but they soon discover that the Texans of this town, they're not gonna let them off that easy. The brothers make their getaway, but the people of this town are going straight after them. The brothers are able to separate from these people for at least a little while, and here is where Ben Foster decides to give the money to Chris Pine, have him go and make the payment while he goes back to hold these people off. So Ben Foster, he drives up this mountain with law enforcement coming after him, including Jeff Bridges and his partner. Ben Foster is able to use his truck to just take out one of these police cars by lighting a gallon of gasoline on fire. Now armed with a sniper, Ben Foster is trying to shoot down as many of these guys as he can. And one of the guys he takes out is Jeff Bridges' partner. And yeah, right at that moment, Jeff Bridges is all like, yeah, I'm taking this motherfucker down. He borrows a rifle from one of the members of the local SWAT team. He climbs to the other side of the mountain. And with one great shot, Ben Foster is dead. Now we get to the end of this movie. We see that Chris Pine has been able to pay off this debt. Jeff Bridges has also retired from law enforcement. And because there was no sufficient evidence that Chris Pine was a part of these bank robberies, his name has been cleared. However, that doesn't stop Jeff Bridges from tracking down where Chris Pine is. And seeing these two talk to each other one-on-one, the tension is so strong here. They're both armed, they're prepared to kill one another if need be. However, Chris Pine doesn't want to cause any sort of violence in front of his family, so the two just agree to part ways. But Chris Pine does suggest to Jeff Bridges, hey, maybe we'll meet again soon, and then we can, you know, finish this. So all in all, I thought Hell or High Water was a really, really good movie. Jeff Bridges, Chris Pine, Ben Foster, they all do an excellent job in this movie. The two pairs in this movie, they had great chemistry among each other. I really bought the relationships that they had between each other. The dialogue, as I mentioned in this movie, was real. It was engrossing. It was funny to an extent. The movie had a fair amount of really intense moments. I certainly can't deny that. The only flaws I have with this movie are, one, it did feel very slow at times. Although the slow pacing of this movie isn't as bad as it's been in other movies, I still can't deny that it is there. And another flaw I have with this movie is very similar to the flaw I had with Steve Jobs from last year. It's a great movie with great acting, great writing, and great directing, but it doesn't have much replay value. This is not a movie that I feel I need to see again. This isn't a movie that I'm gonna buy on Blu-ray. I look for replay value in every single movie that I see, and if it's not there, then it's gonna lose some points from me. But nevertheless, this is still a very, very well-made movie. It's already getting some Oscar buzz, and I certainly wouldn't be surprised if this movie is up for a few nominations. So that's all I gotta say, guys. Thank you so much for watching my video. Don't forget to leave a comment, like, subscribe, and I will see you all next time.